Hi there, and thank you for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast. We feature those who are in the process of overcoming or have overcome any type of life encounter, life obstacle that at the time seemed to be almost insurmountable. With this podcast, we have three objectives in mind. Our first objective is we want you to know with a confident resolve you are not alone. We want to work with you. We want you to know there are others who are working with you, who want to help you through whatever you are encountering, and together we will get through whatever you're experiencing.
Our second objective is there are multiple options for any life encounter you are facing. We want to help you develop a resolve that there are various options and solutions to any life dilemma.
Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If you're encountering something that was possibly a decision you made sometime in the past, and if you had the opportunity for a life redo, you would make a different decision. We want to help you with those critical thinking skills that can help you make an informed decision and not encounter what you're going through at the moment. We are the Cooper Culture, a veteran-owned business. We work with business personnel and families to develop and sustain connected relationship cultures within their families and organizations. That type organization is one where people feel wanted, appreciated, and genuinely a part of that organization. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty, who is helping me facilitate this podcast. Today we feature Austin Davis, who has a great ministry and an outreach to children who are experiencing various, I'll use the term, life anomalies. These children could be addicted to various habits, behaviors. These children could be a product of family life. They could be a product of any type of learning disability. But Austin has a great ministry where he reaches out to these children and has a time with them and has a very defined program while he can help those through mentoring and therapy overcome any aspect of the past that may be inhibiting them from living their full God-designed potential. Marty, what are some takeaways we can learn from Austin?
I'm glad that Austin is in an organization that helps these teenagers, because the teenagers today are going through some life struggles, not only with addiction or other aspects of trauma or whatever, but then also with those children that think different and are bullied. And he's saying that more and more children are coming to their organization with the fact that these kids have been bullied, they've been traumatized, and they help them. So I'm so glad there's an organization. There should be more of these organizations that help these kids.
It's a great opportunity to learn how we can help these children learn and adapt to a different lifestyle as we choose to adapt to them. Let's listen and learn together. Austin, it is great to have you with us. Our listeners are going to be very interested in your personal experience, how you are working with teens who, as you described, are going through, in some cases, some silent struggles and struggles of all types, I'm going to believe. And then there may be some who are recovering from, and you talk about addictions. There may be some who are recovering from. And I'm missing that to say that I would hope our listeners choose to engage in conversation with anyone and everyone and be aware of, and through that awareness, without judging, without labeling, any of those kind of things, maybe, just maybe, we could help a person avoid making a very unwise decision about something, or we can help those who are making it through some kind of addiction. Let's say they're on the backside, help them reintegrate into the workforce, society, and so forth. But just some of the things that crossed my mind. Austin, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for taking time out of the day and having me on.
Austin, you deal in teenage behavioral health, addiction treatment, and so forth. I don't necessarily have a place to start, but maybe just tell us what are some of the, I don't know, propensities for teens to get involved in, and are there some general trends that you see from your perspective?
Propensity. I think we all have the propensity towards poor mental health or addiction, right? We're consumers from birth. Freud was good with the id, the id, and the superego, right?
Yep.
So we kind of know that we all have the propensity to be addicted to something. And so our kids right now, they get introduced to the phone at probably age 1 or 2, and they're growing up with technology. And so there's that dopaminergic addiction or response that they're getting used to. And and then all the platforms, right? They know the algorithm, they know the platforms for the kids, and then substances, and then we see kids using mental health disorders as a way of coping, right? I am depressed or I am bipolar, and then so that validates the behaviors of my life or something like that. So, yeah, it's a big wide scope.
Let me ask you, it seems very elementary, but let me ask you about the term mental health. And I'm asking you this because I used to think mental health and mental illness were synonymous terms. I now know for me personally that I had a very poor mental health as in younger age. I used to think I was dumb, stupid, couldn't speak to you, and if I were now what I was then, I wouldn't be able to talk to you now. But I can now freely understand at an earlier age I had a very poor mental health, but I don't think I was mentally ill. But do you differentiate those two terms at all, Austin?
Um, yeah, they do get used synonymously at times, and I think mental health is something like my physical health. After we finish this, I'm gonna go work out. I'm gonna go take care of my physical health. So mental health is the same thing. It's a continuation, right? Like, but if I break my leg, I'm gonna have a broken leg. I'm gonna have a condition. I'm gonna have to go to a doctor, and to where like mental illness is probably more geared to the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Disorders, right? That has a certain definition to that lack of health or mental health.
Okay. Would it be fair to say our mental health can be affected by those with whom we have in our circle of friends and books we read, those kind of things?
Absolutely, absolutely. I tell our teens, like, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I'm a Christian and believer, and so I surround myself with those people because they have the same lifestyle that I have, right? I'm a clinician, so if I want to learn something, I hang out with clinicians, and I'm an entrepreneur, so I hang around people who build things and drive business initiatives every day because that's what I want my life to look like. So absolutely, our mental health. Is almost codependent on our community at times.
Oh, I'm right there with you. What you just said is very important for our listeners that I'm a believer, and you're an expert in this, Austin, but I'm a believer that if we can, I'm going to use the word discern, not judge, if we discern, and just very briefly, Marty and I are faith based, Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. As we work with people, as we are discerning through the power of the Holy Spirit, that maybe, just maybe, you're with the wrong circle of friends. Maybe you're not using your time wisely and so forth. If we can engage with a person without being judgmental or labeling or so forth, is that one approach we should be able to take to maybe help another person who is you've taken a left turn when I would hope you would have made a right turn, kind of thing, just to use that very elementary expression.
I mean, Paul, I think it was Paul's pretty clear, right? Be in the world, but not of it. And I think we have, and let me just say, I have a calling, to kind of press into the darkness and go be with people, that I wouldn't necessarily go be with, right? Like, they actually come and live with with me at our centers, and we do treatment and things like that. But I think there's two types of relationships. Like, you have your people who feed into your life and you have relationship with, and then you have those that you're, sort of that outer circle that, you're trying to build relationship with, and figure out, if they can enter into that. I'm trying to be PC here, right? Like, there's some folks you don't want to be around, right?
Yep.
Because they violate, the core. I'll use sports analogies, right? If you don't want somebody in your team because they're a bad player, you don't invite them to play basketball, right? If they show up on the court and they don't pass, well, I don't want to play with that guy.
But let me use that as a good analogy right there in the context that you're you know a youth sufficiently to know that, well, you're not confident enough to have a lot of friends, and you're, yeah, let's just say that you impress me as being uncertain about yourself, and you're maybe a little bit standoffish or maybe introverted, whatever the may be. But I'm discerning you have a real lack of confidence in yourself, and you're willing to accept anyone as a friend, and you're discerning this is what's happening. I will tell you, Austin, my perception is that person has, I'm going to use the word propensity, if they haven't already. Yeah, because you have maybe a low self-image, low self-confidence, you might be certain you might be engaging in the wrong circle of friends. It's at that point where I would like to engage you in conversation. Maybe I could help steer you in a better direction and help you from making a fateful decision.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that's key. And the country song says, "Looking for love in all the wrong places." I use that, or it's way before our kids were born. But yeah, we see that. We see this, pattern of behavior. There's attachment theory and stuff like that, that fits into place here. But, yeah, this my belief about self is I'm dumb, I'm dumb, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I'm worthless. Well, then I'm gonna go find those types of relationships, because that's what I believe about myself. Um, we see that everywhere.
Austin, I would like to know how you got started in this particular uh, area, because there may be someone in our audience that says, I want to help, but I don't know how to get started. Or, is this really a calling from God for me?
Yeah. Yeah, so, I came to faith at 15. I went to didn't grow up in the church, went to church with a friend. And the next 2, 3 years of high school, God just grabbed my life, and I felt like there was a call to do ministry of some sort. And I was a part of the youth. And so, one of the, mentors there said, "There's a school in East Tennessee, that's, called Lee University." I went to Lee, did my undergrad in pastoral ministries. Really thought I was going to work in the local church and as a youth pastor. Actually did that for about 3 or 4 years. Ended up going to seminary for an MDiv. Um, and all along taking counseling classes because I saw that as a parachurch sort of, where it was going, right? Like people needed to have, real answers to real problems that Hebrew and Greek, exegesis wasn't filling that gap. And so I did the counseling route, and then it just immediately the lights kind of came on, and, started working at mental health facilities and, psych hospitals and things like that. And then that just kind of snowballed into where we're at today with 4 treatment centers and anywhere between 75 and 100 kids at a time, that we're seeing, with mental health and substance use issues. And so how do you get started? If you're not called, to this industry, I will push you away all day long, because you'll just like going into the ministry. if I can convince you it's not important, then you're not called. Or like it's a drawing. It is. There are days where I want to drive a dump truck for a living, because of what we do, because it's hard. And so that calling wakes me up every single morning to get back and fight against the darkness that our kids are facing, that our families are facing, and just see if we can rescue one of them.
As you reflect on your life, have you experienced what you would consider poor, low mental health, any addictions of that nature?
So every single kid on our boys' campus, when they meet me for the first time, they go, "Mr. Austin, what drugs did you use?" And I go, "I didn't." What do you mean? You got long hair and you own a treatment center. How do you do all that and never use drugs? Well, the short answer is Christ chose me, set me aside, right? And I said, "But what makes us the same?" And I go, "Did your parents divorce?" "Yeah, my dad's this and that." And I get the story, and I said, "Okay. I thought your best friend died. I read that somewhere in your intake packet. Didn't he die?" Yeah. My brother and I were best friends, and I went left and he went right on our motorcycles, and he didn't come back. So we talk about death and grief. It's like you get your heart broken. So we just go through all of these things. Um, and we begin to identify and connect together, because it's not substances that make us the same, it's life experiences. And it is this sort of evolution of mental health, right? Like, for sure, I was sad and uh, maybe depressed, right? When my brother died. As a 10-year-old, I didn't know what those feelings were as my parents divorced, but I sure played a lot of baseball the upcoming years, and dealt with my stuff that way. And so those things have evolved throughout life. But yeah, I think we're all emotional beings and created that way. And so the magic is how do we deal with it? What do we do? Jesus says, "Cast our cares upon him. His yoke is easy and his burden is light." Like, so, like, that's how, I experience those things, but I go back to um his word, and lay that before his feet as best as I can every day. I'm not perfect. I mean, I still have my days.
I think one of the important things you just said is, or my take of it, and I want to make sure that I'm interpreting correctly, is you, a listener, do not necessarily have to have been addicted to anything. You can have, let's say, a drug-free, alcohol-free life, but you can be a very useful catalyst, if I could use that term, mentor. You could be that person to help a person through and so forth. Would I be accurate from your perspective in that assessment?
Absolutely. A kind word. That's all people need most days, is a kind word.
One of the things I talk about is I care about you. I don't necessarily have to use those words, but also I'm going to believe the person with whom we're working, even if I didn't use those words, it's not necessarily because I chose not to, but if I do in fact care about you, is it your experience my actions will demonstrate that I do in fact care about you? And that's a lot of what teens want to know, that you do care enough to help me.
Yeah. I mean, what's the phrase? People don't care about what you know
Until they
until.
first know how much you care.
Right. I mean, so that's the first rule of thumb. I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor, so I do supervision with upcoming therapists and things like that. And that's pillar number one, or the very foundation of every therapeutic relationship, is build trust. And it everything from the temperature in the room to where the seats are positioned, to the words you say, the how you say them, all of those things display that level of trust and rapport every single time. So yeah, absolutely true.
Now, for the parent, grandparent, otherwise caretaker, anybody in whatever capacity, if they're uh, the person within their sphere of influence is going through drug, alcohol, whatever, is it your experience they have to reach a decision to want recovery as opposed to, man, I'm going to take you to Austin and I'm going to somehow force you into a better life? Talk to that person who says, man, I can't even get this person to make a decision.
Yeah, so our demographic is 13 to 17 year olds. And no 17-year-old, I can't say no because we've had one in 1,000 probably, call us, and that's probably the real ratio after about 5,000 kids. I've had probably 5 in 7 or 8 years call and say, "Hey, I want help. I'm hit my rock bottom." Uh, but most of the time, our kiddos come because parents want them to. And the first 30 days is us um, building rapport and being very patient while they complain and yell and scream at us and say, "I don't need to be here," you know, and all the while they're showing us the behavior of why they need to be here. And then there's like the second 30 days of where they actually trust us enough to say, "Hey, I've never told anybody this, but this, and this happened in my life." And we get to work through those things through the treatment plan. And then the last 30 days is like, okay, you've always coped with this thing in this way. Let's learn a new life skill. Let's learn a different way of coping with that stress mechanism. Um, so short answer is at some point, everybody has to raise their hand at some point in this journey and say, "I want help." We can help all day long, but until they buy in, it just nothing sticks.
I have heard, and neither Marty and I have been addicted to, nor we just don't consume drugs or alcohol, but we have heard from some who have said, I was in the addiction so deep that I just had to, you're just going to have to wait for me to get on the upswing. I guess that's the term I would use. But it's a matter of time, and there's nothing you can do. You can't make me do anything. There are some parents that we know of, we've interviewed them, who have said, "I will not let you into my house." It's a very, very difficult decision, but I can't let you into my house in the state you are in. You're going to have to live in the woods, maybe figuratively or literally, for some period of time. But you seem to be saying that parents bring their kids in, which is, man, I'm just happy to hear that. But yet there's some who, man, are so deeply addicted. Parents, caregivers may say, "Man, I can't even get this person in my car."
Yeah. Now above 18, so ours are 13 to 17-year-old, right? So in Texas, parents still have some rights. Once they're 18, I worked in adult treatment for a long time. And so that is the conversation, right? Is boundaries and expectations of, this is how you live in our home. And if it's outside those guidelines, you don't live inside of our home. And so there are some healthy ways to sort of abate that addiction cycle, because whether families agree or not, they're a part of the problem. Not saying they're the problem, but it's a cycle. It's a family system. We're all here because of our mom and dad, and so yeah, they have some responsibility both to themselves and to their child to have good boundaries and expectations.
What you just said is very important. And what I'm taking from it, you possibly have kids that are a product of their family background. And maybe or you at least suspect that if the home environment, if the home culture doesn't change, recidivism is going to happen even after you've taken the kids through treatment. Do you work with the parents, caregivers, and so forth alike and express something like that? That Austin, feel very confident I can bring your son or daughter through their addiction. However, the home environment could cause recidivism. Do you have to deal with that very difficult situation?
Yeah, so it's one of our core pillars is family work and family systems, and so we don't just work with the kiddo. If you think about the little duck you pull out of the oil spill and you clean it off, and then you just set it back on the ground. Well, it's going to go right back to its habitat that hasn't been cleaned up. So we can do that over and over and over. We don't want to do that. We want to go clean up the source. Um, and it could be substance use in the home. It could be, mental illness in the home. It could just be normal, capitalistic white American issues, right? Of entitlement or something like that. But we're going to go and clean those things up and address them just head on with the families.
Do you have a sense of the rate of recidivism from those you treat, the 13 to 17-year-olds? Do they remain clean, or are there some that are facing recidivism?
Yeah, so we have a 13-week program. They're here for 90 days. Our kids have a 92% success rate over, like, we follow them for 12 months. So over 90% of them stay sober, clean, if they stay the 13 weeks. So as that number of length of stay kind of trickles backwards, and so does the recidivism. So close to 50%. If you stay 50% of the program, you got a 50-50 shot of staying clean and sober.
In your program, I'm going to believe you emphasize God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit as the source of your recovery. Is it those that do make that life choice? They become, for those who are not familiar with the term, born again into the new life. Is it that ultimately, Austin, that brings people through and helps them avoid recidivism?
I think it's a large part of it. And gosh, we've baptized like 400 kids. We got a pool and a lake. So, so that it's not, we have a very clinical and very strategic clinical program. My thought and belief is if God is down that way on the road, there's several things between me and him that we need to remove clinically and relationally. And once we begin to remove those blocks, then our kids can see God the Father. And he's standing right there going, hey, remember me? And so that's a large part of what makes us unique and how our treatment model exists, is both clinically excellent and Christ-centered.
If I'm interpreting you correctly and hearing everything you're saying right, I'm going to say, clinically diagnose whatever some of the deeply held, and I call it in the subconscious, that might be keeping you or driving you in the state you're in. You deal with those issues to clear up the roadblocks. I'm going to use that term somewhat loosely. And once you deal with those issues, then maybe they can see the better life. Is that somewhat of a simplistic way that you deal with your kids?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I just think yeah, you said it. I don't need to regurgitate it. You said it. That's it. That's my job.
Okay. I want to ask, you deal with just drug issues, right? Now, there are children that have been bullied, and there are children that are autistic and they have been bullied and they go into things like, so do you have children like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the last probably 5 years, we've seen our milieu or our census change. We started out as substance use primary, and so now it's about a 60-40. 40% of our kids are not using substances at all. So they're cutting, they have suicidal ideations, they're oppositional defiant, and have behavior issues. And so we really treat both set of symptoms at the same way. It's who are you? That's the question every single kid looks in the mirror and tries to answer. And when they've got TikTok, that's their source of information about telling them who they are, right? And that that spiral out of control is just not manageable when it's not based on God's word. You know, when there's not a capital T truth to reflect back to them, who am I?
No, I think that's very interesting, what you just said. The increasing number of people who are on the maybe autistic spectrum, ADHD, any of those kind of I'm going to say neurological disorders, dysfunctions. Are you seeing from your perspective, are you seeing an increase in the number of those people who are becoming autistic, ADHD, and so forth? And really, the genesis of my question: are we just able to better recognize those people, or is there something that's causative in increasing the number or percentage of those who are of that neurological disorder?
This will be a political statement, but you've seen the RFK stuff,
Yep.
and just the hockey stick of autism and related disorders across the last 3, 4, 5 decades. And so I do think there is some causality there, just from birth, right? And so therefore every other healthcare sector is being affected with ASD type of things. And so yeah, we see probably 1 in 5 kids probably has some sort of either undiagnosed or pretty prominent and needs to be diagnosed spectrum type of disorder. And so ADHD, I'm a child of the 80s, and so like everybody, that was our thing. And so I think it's very different because of the technology implications with our kids now, and attention spans and the way school works. And so some of it's both organic and situational with a lot of our kids. And so we take away their phone, we take away their drugs, we take away sex, we take away TV, and a kid's sitting over in the corner reading a book, and you're like, what? Wait, he hasn't done that in years. Well, that's because neurologically and sympathetic nervous systems have sort of regulated because the stimuli is not there.
I'm going to ask you a question that I think to be true, but as we identify any, let's say, behavioral topics, issues, whatever term we'd use, that you seem to be addicted to the cell phone. You seem to be addicted to excessive whatever. My perception, and here I'm going to ask you a question, as I'm not a clinical psychologist, but as we identify whatever it is they are becoming addicted to, screen time, and which covers the broad spectrum, we need to replace it with something more wholesome. We can't just take away from. We need to actually replace whatever it is we're trying to modify their behavior, but we need to replace it with something better. Would that be a fair statement, Austin?
Absolutely. And some of it can be maladaptive. I've watched a lot of methamphetamine users go and run 10 or 12 marathons in a year, and their body deteriorates just as fast as what they would do as they would use meth. So we have to make sure that replacement doesn't go from drugs to having 19 sexual partners. So we have to. I think we have an illustration in the New Testament, right? We go in and clean house and remove all the demons, and if we don't go and put the good stuff back, the demons just go get 7 more friends and come back. So we do have to refill the temple with things of holiness. Go back to your community and your friends and who you're around. There is some element of that, right? Like if I didn't work out every day, I would probably be an alcoholic or something. Like just me personally, I'm driven, I'm entrepreneur. That's just my propensity. And so I try to focus on health instead of unhealth in my behaviors.
And what comes to mind as we're discussing this is Romans 12:2, where it talks about transforming the mind. And I think we need to be, and I would hope our listeners would choose to be a catalyst to help transform the mindset of those who aren't thinking well. And I'm now mental health to me could be a lot of negative thinking, could be some aspect of depression. It could be whatever is maybe slowly driving us to the wrong direction. We need to engage with those people to help transform the mindset with something better in it. And I am saying it's not just take away, but it's replaced with something more wholesome. And I know, Austin, a lot of times that, man, I tell you what, I can't even begin to think of some of those things. That's where people, I think, as we choose to engage with others in a community outreach, let's just call it that, support groups, whatever the term, I think we can help each other devise some healthier thought things that can help a person through whatever it is they're going through, or maybe even help a person avoid getting into something fateful.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree.
Well, Austin, on behalf of our listeners, I want to thank you for the ministry you are in. You're into personal health, you're into mental health, into helping those who are having struggles with and have made maybe some wrong choices. And I want to tell our listeners, we're not here to focus on any facts that a person has made wrong choices. We want to help them on the right side, and right being perceived in a lot of different ways. But we want to help them make it through best decisions, and we want to help them make better decisions. And I think surrounding them with the friends and the positive influence, the longer we are persistent in being able to do that, the greater the benefit we're going to be to others. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely.
Well, Austin, again, thank you so much for your ministry and what you're doing for the teens. And I would hope our listeners would choose to engage with you. Let's involve ourselves with others who are in whatever state they're in. But and I know it's there's some of us in the context of silent. We talked about that from the very beginning. There are some of us who would never divulge any negative thoughts we have because we don't know what you may think of us. But as we truly engage in with those people, and we develop the trust and friendship of which you very clearly discussed, we can help others avoid very fateful decisions, even to the point where maybe they could acknowledge, yep, I'm not as good off as I need to be, but with your help, I'll make it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Austin. We appreciate it. Have a great day.
Blessed day.
We appreciate having the opportunity to share our and our guests' life experiences with you.
The Cooper Culture advances organizations to achieve and sustain high retention rates, connected communication, and trust through personality insights and principled leadership. You can contact us at our website, thecooperculture.com, and you can contact us directly at ron@thecooperculture.com or Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, at thecooperculture.com. We work with you to help assess aspects of your culture to advance the environment and people to their best performance. We do that through our staff of certified personal performance coaches, leadership trainers, keynote speakers, and DISC personality behavior experts. You can book a speaking engagement directly through our website by contacting us at ron@thecooperculture.com. We look forward to sharing our life experiences with you, some of which are profound, some of which are pretty funny. Some of those life experiences are ones we'll never do that again because we've been through stuff. We truly look forward to working with you, speaking with you, helping advance you in any way that we can.